Good morning, good afternoon. Where does time go? And thank you for braving the elements to join us this afternoon. My name is Bruce White, and for the moment, I'm the newest member of the Michigan Design Center neighborhood. We just opened our showroom 2 weeks ago. We are picture framers and have been for 40 years, and it took me 40 years to realize that I was working in the wrong building. So it's nice to join you all here today. So standing here in front of this crowd seems very odd to me right now. It's nice to be here though. And James Oscar Lee, he's worked right here behind us, talented painter. To his left, Miss Shannon Fody, realist artist. Her portraiture and figurative work you'll find examples of in our showroom. I hope you'll come down and look later on. You'll find more here. And of course, Instagram. To her left, Mr. Nate Faciola. Now, I know I don't have the correct Italian pronunciation of Faciola.
Pretty close.
But yeah, Nate is not only a talented sculptor, but has joined our team, crazy man, about 9 months ago. So we've been blessed to have his help. We wouldn't have been able to make the move without Nate. To Nate's left, my oldest friend on the panel, the man I look up to, who has been a friend that I didn't know I deserved, because for years, Mike Hahn has been instrumental in our survival through COVID times. The number of people that he's referred to our business, I can't count the number, but I can tell you that without them, I wouldn't be standing here today. So sincere gratitude. Jesse Castle, best known in this city for the incredible murals that he does, remarkable color, illustrative style that I find so appealing. The most recent one that I know about is it Island View, they call it, down across from Island View. It's a DTE facility with a wonderful wall that was made for murals. And last summer, one-time run, which is a publisher downtown organized. There has to be at least 20 artists, I'm sure, who did that, worked on that wall.
At least, yeah, I think there was maybe 35.
But you're a highlight. And on Jesse's left, my former neighbor, Javier Paricio. Javier is actually, of all the people on the panel, never intended to be an artist. He's an engineer in the automotive industry. And as it turns out, he's got a great eye for photography and also, I think, a great talent with light and shadow in his work. And when I was looking for people to join us today, I reached out to Javier to see if he'd be interested, and I'm very grateful that he was willing to do that. So I stand here, as I mentioned, as a picture framer and a failed artist. And the reason that the first reason that comes to my mind for why I am a failed artist is that when I look at a piece of paper, blank piece of paper, blank canvas, I don't see anything. I don't know where images come from. I couldn't draw you a stick figure. So I'm curious, James, where the hell do you get these ideas? What are you seeing in your head? And what is the process for getting what's in here on that canvas? Got any thoughts to share?
Yeah. So I normally start out with mixing up some colors. I kind of small batch them all out, and then I'll set up about maybe 5 canvases at a time. So I flow through them all with it, and then I start using color theory and balance, kind of adding a fluidity to everything through that. And usually I'm probably most likely kind of jamming out to music a lot. So it'll be like a lot of rhythm through that, which is then transitioning and flowing through. So but yeah, different materials too. So it's like what I'm painting on, what type of canvas, certain things can pop out a little better, and then you kind of just get inspired by yourself.
Shannon, talk to me, talk to us.
I think for me personally, what really inspires me to make work is this idea of like a technical narrative. And there's an artist that I really like. His name is Vincent Desiderio, and he talks about, you know, the technical side of like paint and like painting being kind of the story in and of itself. So I really like exploring different mediums and kind of the natural properties of each one, letting like oil paint look like paint, having charcoal look like charcoal, and creating something representational out of these kind of really earthy like objects.
Beautiful. Nathan?
I came from a clay background initially with automotive design that I did for such a long time, and making cars out of clay, I enjoyed making things look real. So I kind of focused on the realism of things, super heavy detail until it's insane. But I get in automotive design, I was just inspired by shapes, cool surfacing, and stitching, and just super high level detail to where I've done a lot of figurative and realism type things, but I'm starting to try to find new inspiration for abstract art and using my background of surfacing and auto design to try to relay that to these abstract pieces. So there was a Mercedes show car that their interior surfaces were overlapping each other, and there was little, louver type lines, and that kind of grabbed that inspiration and just started carving. And so that's, those two things I'd say: automotive design and real, just making things look real, and transitioning to wood. I just love the organic, like it's a piece of wood. It's from earth. Clay is fun, but wood is not as forgiving. You got to take away. It's a lot more intricate and less forgiving and risky. But
Thank you, Nathan.
So I'm the opposite of real and complex and detailed, very minimal in my work. And it's because I'm sort of terrified of everything, to be honest. And so I try to simplify my world, distill complexity into just the most essential pieces. So my paintings are an organic process where I make a mark and I observe that mark and I find the next mark as a result. And so these paintings for me are very much just like an analogy to try to figure out how to live my life. Learning how to breathe, focusing on breath, when I'm anxious, like now. Learning how to find what I call dynamic balance, whether it's canvas or a mural, that's ultimately the goal. So the process of breathing, taking, left foot, right, taking one step in front of the other, that if you do that process and if you focus on those steps and on those breaths, then ultimately you can figure out how to live life better. At least that's the idea. And so I try to block out all the complexity of this world and simplify it and reduce it down into its most basic parts. And that's kind of how I paint.
My work actually started in realism when I was younger. That was like what I was really passionate about. And I put a lot of time into developing that skill set. And then just sort of threw it all out. I think I became impatient, and Mike has said, I've just tried to simplify all my forms and explore and experiment. And I think that's still where I'm at. Like everything I do now is like still experimentation. Sometimes it sticks and a lot of times it doesn't. So.
Yeah, so as Bruce was saying, I'm not an artist, or at least I don't consider myself. I always say I'm an engineer that likes photography. My main inspiration has been Detroit. So I was born in Barcelona, and I remember when I was young, Barcelona before the Olympic Games was kind of the Detroit we can see today. That city that was not looking to the ocean is in front, with all warehouses, all industrial areas. A city that took years into a process of renew, and that is part of the inspiration. Also, there is a second part for me, which is like get out of the day-to-day work. Photography is like my corner where I find peace, where I can forget about the problems of the week, where I'm focusing on what I want to shoot and how I want and the angle, and then that your brain is totally focused on that. You are not thinking on the work. I shoot different things, from black and white to color. The state we live is so beautiful that there is so many things that you can go and shoot. I've been in the UP, during fall and taking. But Detroit is one of the focus because of this contrast between the modern things, the decay, the old buildings. I'm part of the what inspires me to go and shoot is that, character that I'm curious by nature. So I maybe know more corners than a lot of people from Detroit. In Detroit, I can drive around. I know where I am. People say, "Well, this is dangerous." It doesn't matter. I go with the camera, go around. Sometimes in the night, it's that environment, and it's a little bit of the inspiration. Some of the photos, like those ones, it's a storm day. You go out and shoot, and yes, you go back home and you're wet and cold, but it's part of the process.
I'm curious, a main point of today's session is to try to facilitate the conversation between designers, interior design, and artists. Mr. Han, you worked with so many different people. You take commissions regularly. With interior designers, your usual customer, or is it directly? Tell me, talk to us.
Yeah, so my career, I haven't done a lot of gallery stuff. So it's a little unusual, I guess. And so in not going that route, I've worked a lot with designers and architects. As my work, I feel very fortunate. It lends itself well to interior design, as I'm collaborative in my commission work. So whether it's canvas or mural for office or residential, I like to address space and color with designers and architects, either in the pre-planning process, once buildings are up and furniture is planned, to after, even with some like art advisors and things like that, to place work inside homes that are already fit and finished. So kind of in every step of the way, I interact with those three types of professionals.
Jesse, any thoughts? Any experience?
Yeah, I work with interior designers and architects a lot as well. Doing a lot of murals in like brand retail settings.
Can I ask you about your Lululemon piece? Because I liked
Yeah.
it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I was working directly with the team, and interior designer on that team, and we went through numerous color variations until we got the right fit and feel for the space.
A little more sedate maybe than the color as I'm used to seeing.
Yes.
A little more subtle perhaps.
And I'm trying to tone things down lately. I think that the colors are a lot of fun, but I also just want to kind of bring a little bit more sophistication to my work.
So the pieces that I have at the MDC right now and in the slideshow are my personal work. So they have been in some shows in galleries, but they weren't commissioned by anyone. I have done that, in the past, and I'm still taking personal commissions. But in my own personal work, I just really love painting and drawing the people like in my own life. And that's kind of really important to me, is kind of showcasing like these people that I'm surrounded by and kind of showing like their beauty, even if they don't necessarily see that in themselves.
Pricing. People say, how does an artist put a number on a piece of work? And I try to explain that combination of schooling, expenses, years in the business, reputation.
Yeah, I guess pricing depends on self-worth. Like what you think of how much what your livelihood is worth, the time that piece goes into, how much more complex of that feeling that you get when you create that piece, and then how it sits on you. Art is also a very impulsive thing to buy. It's not there's commissions, but a lot of times art is sold through impulse buying, right? So it's like you have that feeling that you need and want that and love that, so you're gonna go ahead and say, I want that. Every time I bought another artist's work, that's how I felt, and that's how I bought it. There's things you factor in with studio costs, supply costs, like I said, time cost, how many paintings you make that year, right? So if you're making 10 paintings, each one is between 5 for like a smaller range to like 20K for like a large piece, right? So if you're doing that and you factor everything in, and let's say I don't know, let's just say like anywhere between 70 and 100K you can make off of that. But then you also factor in gallery costs, commission fees, 50%, or sorry, 45%, 50% sometimes. And then, take your rent out, take all these other things out, and, So what is your livelihood worth?
I
How
know
is
that
that?
you can have, Shannon has her day job because, and you teach as well.
Yeah, I think most artists at some point in their lives, or like for me currently, have to have multiple income streams that you pull together, whether that's like, instruction, so teaching, having like a day job just to kind of meet costs. I spend a lot of time making my pieces. I'm not really fast at coming up with like a finished product. And because of that, sometimes it's hard for me to really like let go of a piece after I've finished it. When you've invested so much time, it's really kind of hard to think of it in an hourly rate like you would with a normal job. So I still have difficulty in that regard with my pieces.
Nate, I know that as you were early in your career as an artist sculptor, this has been an issue for you to try to figure out where to start.
We were sitting down last night trying to figure out pricing, and I'm like, this is hard. I want people to buy my art, and like, oh, you like my art? Here, you want to take it? Like, you can have it. And it's like, okay, I do have to try to, help support my family by doing this too. So a lot of time invested. So I'm learning, and I've already learned sitting up here by you guys talking about simplifying a little bit. I go insane with detail. I mean, be able to get there soon. And
All right, now, because I know the answers to this, I do want you to ask and share. Nate has two significant pieces in our showroom right now. He has a piece where he has a sculpted Aiden Hutchinson's jersey. The attention that we got in the first hour of that being put up the other day was significant as well. And then the Father Solanas,
Yes.
which you just finished sculpting for tonight's fundraiser
right.
for the Capuchin Kitchen,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How many hours do you have in Father Solanas?
I'm looking at my wife and she's like, I probably 55, 60 around there.
And
I
how
know.
many hours, how many late nights have you had?
Lots.
Thank you, Nate. Mr. Hahn, we've had some conversations about this, and I know you're a one-man business. You don't have a manager. You don't typically work through galleries. And so for you, the struggle has been sort of like mine. How do we market our businesses? At what cost? In time and money?
So I got lucky actually. So I've been painting for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. But I've only been making a living in the past 3 years, doing it. And so I used to be a sushi chef. That was kind of my bread and butter. And I was supposed to open up a restaurant in Ann Arbor in 2020, and the pandemic canceled it about a month before it was supposed to open. And so I was unemployed for 6 months, and it was actually the fourth restaurant I tried to open up in Metro Detroit in the past 10 years. And so it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And I thought, my career is done and I need to figure out what to do with my life now. And so it took 6 months for somebody to just come out of the blue and offer me a commission. They wanted me to paint inside their kids' room. And so I've been, getting commissions, maybe one a year or something like that. It was a nice side thing. And so I accepted it and it paid my bills. And that's when I decided I have to lean into this because it's literally the only thing that I've made money doing in the past 6 months. And if I want to be an artist, then this is my time. I need to give it a shot. And so I had real bills and I could make art. And so I needed to figure out how many things that I needed to make in order to pay my bills. So it started out very practically, which is never how I've looked at pricing art. Because earlier it was always just like, how do I price it? What do I do? I feel weird asking people for money for something that I just enjoy doing. But when it became a necessity, it was really easy to figure out these are how many paintings I need to make in order to pay my bills. And then as things progressed, I got fortunate and, got press and things like that and got to work with some great brands. Value increased from me being able to place more value on myself. I think is the first step for an artist, which is the hardest step, is deciding that you and your work has value. And then if that matches what people outside of your brain, if they perceive that the value is what you say it is, then they make a purchase, right? And if that continues, then you have a track record. And then as time went on, I became more busy and I had less time. And so then I had to raise prices in order to control my time. And so by raising prices, there were fewer people who would purchase, but everything kind of would work out where I would give myself enough time and have enough projects where I could take care of the things that I needed.
Any thoughts, Jess?
Yeah, I think I'm in a similar situation to Mike. And when I transitioned from painting a lot of realism to what I'm doing now in very like a graphic approach, was very conscious decision to say, how can I like structure this in a way where I know I'm going to be paid like a certain hourly amount for what I'm doing. And I just basically compared that to like industry standards and said, I can do this in this amount of time, and just kept pushing forward. And it's certainly been rocky at times, but the last 4 or 5 years have taken off.
Yeah, you're still
So-
beginning stages. of
Yeah,
this.
and for me, it's a mix between what Shannon and Nate were explaining. So I have my day job, and this is what pay my bills and allow me to live and allow me to purchase a camera and the lenses. And so when I sell my photography, which I already do, there is kind of random prices, or that for most of the photographers, we know what an 8x10 will more or less cost. Obviously, there is the printing, the materials, but you cannot be that far away from those prices if you want to sell your art. Then it gets to the point where Mike and Jesse, when you have a name, when you are known, then that price goes up. But when you start, your price has to be really close to what the other people is selling, because if not, to your question, is why this photography costs 4 times the other one, and it's art. So you're gonna say I maybe like the other more than this one that is more expensive. So I price it to the market, let's put on this way. When you go to galleries, especially like Compose in Detroit, where it's focused on new artists, we price the photography more or less on the same level. So this is what I do. And then from there, if it's something specific, then I value my time because I don't have much. My day work takes most of my time. So if I have to do something that I've done in the past, then I have to value those hours that I put on.
Can I add something first? I was just gonna also add, like when I first started out, like 14 years ago doing this. So you go to IKEA and then you see mass produced art that they have and what they price it at, which is ridiculous if it's mass produced, but on a level of like, or Target or anything like this, right? So if those are priced at 500 for a printed canvas that's at a widely distributed big box store, right? Then why would you have your original piece at a price lower than that? Because starting off, I'd be like, I don't know, maybe 250, 300, 500, and then so you got to like kind of price it out like that and realize what is on that commercial market and then what is on a actual piece. Anyways.
This is really the whole purpose of this is to be more comfortable having those conversations. No one up here is getting rich. The prices you see are fair and equitable. The people you're buying from are deserving and hardworking. They deserve your support, and what they create will make your world more beautiful, more inspirational, and more enjoyable. All right, I thank you all. You've been wonderful.